Grab some coffee, a Mountain Dew, maybe both. A storm is brewing. The Brainstorm. Welcome to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike.
Hey, welcome to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Today's show, just like all of our shows, Mike, are all about business building and really just putting the right people in the right spots. There's some leadership shows that we've created over time. Today's show is really exciting because of technology. Technology has advanced and continues to advance at an unprecedented rate.
Sure does.
Just like cell phones, just like connectivity is certainly getting better, but phones, text messaging still works the same way that it has worked for many years. But the connectivity to the internet, the cameras, all kinds of things with phones, just as an example, it just shows the advancement of technology. Then you take that type of technology and you spread it throughout our workforces and our everyday lives. And it is like, I don't even know how people can live without it nowadays. It's something you get used to, and it's something you can't really live without these days.
Yeah, no doubt, Matt. Technology's advanced pretty much every industry, medicine, engineering, education, communication, and everything in between. I'm excited. Today we have some guests who are definitely not unfamiliar with technology and the importance of technology in all of our lives. And so I'd like to introduce and welcome Clint and Dakota with IT-oLogy. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Awesome. Hey, Clint, can you start and just give us a little background on IT-oLogy and who is IT-oLogy? Why was it founded? What's your mission? What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you for letting us be here. Yeah, so IT-oLogy was started about 10 years ago by Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. The former CIO, who is retired now but is still on our board, was looking to recruit more people for Blue Cross. And as they were looking for software developers and other IT people, they ran into the problem that's pretty much worldwide, that there was a shortage of IT talent. So he started this project, which eventually turned into IT-oLogy, which was primarily about bringing awareness to the fact that, hey, we need more people to pursue this as a career. And so IT-oLogy has since grown out of that. It was about awareness, and then since we've added programs to that to actually help recruit people into it. So our mission really is to get more people into the IT field.
Man, when people talk about IT, it is such a small world to have such a broad meaning, and so many things are included in that two-letter word, right? And of course, abbreviated, two-letter word abbreviated, right? But that's what most people refer to it as, IT. But we were talking to some IT folks yesterday at lunch, and talking about a number of hardware and some software solutions and maintenance and security, things of that nature. So when it comes to IT in general as an industry, but then we focus back down to IT-oLogy and what you guys do, almost every organization really is set up and exists to solve a problem, right? So talk to us a little bit, either one of you, it doesn't matter which one of you answer these questions. Talk to us a little bit about what the problem is basically, and what does IT-oLogy solve from an IT perspective?
Like me to handle that?
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, absolutely. Everybody does have a problem to solve. And our big problem is that technology is growing so fast, just like you said, it's impacting every industry, that there are not enough people who are trained in this to fill all of the jobs that are opening up. So because of that, a lot of companies are actually being hindered. Their growth is being hindered from what it could be because they don't have the talent. So the mission, and we start young, getting kids excited about technology, and that goes all the way up through adults. So we work with the whole age range of people, but it's to get them thinking that, hey, this is something that's not only cool and not only fun to use, but it's something I could turn into a career. And so that's kind of how we pursue our mission of just bringing more people to do this stuff to help make an impact.
Gotcha.
And just to expand on that, just very quickly, I have a follow-up question to that. So when we talk about people joining the force and we talk about holding businesses back from being able to be as successful as they can, wouldn't you agree that a lot of times the businesses don't even know that they're not being as successful as they could? Because in the world of IT, you don't know what you don't know. And all of the business owners, we have 450 clients that splash Omnimedia, and I'll guarantee you, us included, Mike and I included, we're not the most versed when it comes to IT infrastructure and IT support and maintenance and security. I would assume that a lot of businesses don't even know that they're being held back.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. It's interesting is one of the hottest career fields, career choices within IT is cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. So most small businesses, most companies think, I'm not going to get hacked. I'm too small. Nobody's going to think about me. But it's just the opposite. Oftentimes, hackers will go after those who have no defense, who have not paid attention to what they should be paying attention to. So security, I think, is a prime example of just that.
That's a good point.
Awesome. And I know IT just spans such a broad range of topics, business analytics and software development and security. And of course, it's being used to transform in massive ways a lot of organizations and industries. But I have a question. So in South Carolina specifically, why is it so important that we develop and grow more IT professionals? Is it a workforce development thing, Dakota, or what is it?
Yeah, definitely. I would say we have a lot of companies that rely on the IT field and IT professionals. So that would be my first answer. We have Blue Cross, we have IBM, and then we have a huge higher education system, a great higher education system across the state, and they need that field of people down to companies like us and school districts. It's really an entire workforce problem and not just an IT company problem. Every company can benefit from having a strong IT professional or department in their location.
Awesome. And why would somebody want to pursue an education in IT, and what kind of careers might be? What are those positions, those titled positions that are available oftentimes in that industry? If
you ask the kids that we work with, their first answer is going to be money.
Money, yeah, money.
Of course.
It's definitely a very lucrative field.
The parents are probably saying, hey, you want to make money, go in IT, right?
Yes.
Go in computers. That's usually what they say. Go into the computer field.
Absolutely. Go into the computer field. I hear that more often than not.
Believe me, because I was one of those people when I went to college, and that was a long time ago. So when I went to college, the computer seemed like the size of this desk. And it was a large computer, and I was a computer.
It was like
programmer.
A typewriter with a screen.
Yeah, I was exactly. I was in computer science, so computer programming. But that's all I heard was, "Hey, you want to do something? Go into computers." Of course, that was in the late '80s, and so it was just different.
Right. That's funny that you talk about the size, because now with our kids, we work with what we call a mini computer, and it's 1 inch by 1 inch.
That's crazy.
And it can put out so many different things. It's so cool.
It's amazing that it could go from having to be the size of a room to the size one by one.
Can fit in your pocket. It's a pocket computer.
Print not having to go to the computer lab because no one had personal printers. And so at least where I was at school, and so the projects we'd have to type up and go print them out and turn them in. And I would literally wait in a line. Our computer lab had about 25 stations, and you literally would wait in line until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning before you could get a printer so you can print out your project.
Wow.
It was crazy.
That is crazy. But yeah, some of the other things in addition to money is the demand. There, a lot of times kids can go to school and almost write their ticket right out of college. And actually, many are not even doing a 4-year college. They're going to a 2-year school, going to a tech school, getting a tech degree, getting some certifications, and immediately starting out at 50, 60, 70 plus a year.
It's fantastic.
So, and the flexibility, oftentimes you can work from home, you can work from the beach, wherever you want to be. Yeah. So it's pretty attractive.
Right. So, you guys For our listeners and our viewers, you're joining us today on the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. We're talking with IToLogy, Dakota and Clint Hankinson with IToLogy. And Clint and I have known each other for quite some time. And you said you've been with IToLogy now, how long?
6 years.
And Dakota, how about you?
I've been there almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. And so it's been around for quite some time. It's been extremely successful helping produce in the IT industry. Talk to us a little bit about the actual programs that your students and professionals go through. Just elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, I'll kick that off. So like you said, we do work with adults, but I specifically work with our K-12 students. So filling that IT gap in South Carolina, you would think that it needs to start at the adult level, but we really saw that there is a gap missing at the K-12 education level. So we started working with students as young as 5 years old in the kindergarten. So that's a lot of fun. So we have a lot of computer science programs. Our most popular one is robotics. That is a great way to get kids hooked in because it's exciting to look at. It's very animated, but then you get to throw in some of the backstory. You get to throw in the coding. You get to throw in the behind the scenes and the technology piece of it. So we work with students with robotics, and then we also have things like scholarship programs. So we are the South Carolina affiliate for a national organization called the National Center for Women in Information Technology.
Oh, nice.
And we found that really important because we want to start getting girls as young as kindergarten interested in this field because they just don't see as many women visibly in the IT field. And we want to change that.
It's been predominantly a male-based industry going back, for
Absolutely.
years and decades, actually. So that's awesome. And Mike, I believe, isn't your aunt in the IT?
She is.
Yeah,
she is.
that's what I
She's
thought,
software development. And
Awesome.
so she's, I think it was called Duck Creek Technologies at one point, and then they became something else, I think. And so now she's actually with a large consultancy that I think helps implement some of this. I think it's insurance software.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So what other types of programs do you guys offer regarding certifications and any other types of maybe someone who's already in the field that might want to advance their career? Do you guys handle that type stuff as well?
You want to talk?
Sure. We do. So one of the most popular certifications we offer is ITIL, ITIL, and it's more of a management side to IT. It's less technical and more management, more business strategy, kind of an approach. And that's one of the top certifications that typically helps people get into the six-figure range with their salaries. So that's very popular. We've also got a very sort of the opposite side of that. We have a very entry-level certification, which is called CompTIA ITF. It's IT Fundamentals Plus, and that's a great test and see kind of a certification. So you take that, it's lower cost. You basically learn the fundamentals of IT. So you can take that and then discover, is this something that I should pursue as a career? Is this something for me? If it is, that's awesome. Then you can continue to move on. If not, no harm, no foul. You still have a certification you can put on your resume and your LinkedIn profile. Mm-hmm. So it's a great kind of a win-win. So those are our two primary, but we're going to be expanding those next year.
So talk like in an ideal scenario, Dakota, someone is early elementary school. You said as young as kindergarten, whether they're male or female, and they begin to fall in love with technology. A lot of kids love gaming and things like that. So a lot of kids today would say they want to be a YouTuber when they grow up, or now, and they want to be a game developer, right? And so now we all know that there's a lot of other needs out there beyond those two things. So what does an ideal career path, from an education perspective, starting off in kindergarten, how do they continue to advance and become, highly successful in the IT field? What does that look like?
I think that's one thing that's beautiful about the IT field is there's so many different pathways to get to that end game of being a computer software developer or a gamer. But definitely I would encourage them to find a mentor and to find companies that offer computer science programming similar to IToLogy and doing it outside of school as well as inside of school. So schools are trying to incorporate more computer science into their curriculum and being more integrated about that. But definitely finding, a robotics club, a lot of schools around South Carolina have those. Finding, the old game Dungeons and Dragons or Dragons.
Right. Oh,
that
yeah.
game, the Richland Library, they host that a couple of times a week, I think. So finding like-minded people and just surrounding yourself with people who look like you that you see in the IT field, try to get that mentor from a very young age and just kind of explore and find different ways to end up at that end game.
Makes sense. So I have three young children, elementary age, and all three of them last year in kindergarten, first grade, and fourth grade, all of them had classes every week that were coding. And so we're in Lexington School District 1, and it's awesome. I mean, they actually have a day where parents get to come in, I think it's once a semester, and get to see their kids do what they've been learning.
That's awesome.
And they have a ball doing it, and it's really interesting. I wish that stuff would have existed back when we were in school, but
it's never too late. You can start learning.
That's right. So it's pretty awesome, and they love to see the way they've added the ability to visually see the impact that they're making as they manipulate the code.
Absolutely.
So I definitely see that. So how does IToLogy piggyback on that type of curriculum to help advance it further?
Yeah. So we, just like you said, gaming is really popular. So that's kind of what we focus on. We make all of our programs based on some sort of gaming attribute, and where they can see it in real time. So most of the coding that we do, anything that you do on your work screen on the right side of your computer, you can see immediately happen on the left side. And that way they can see, if they're missing a comma, they'll automatically see an error. And so it's a great way for them to start seeing the code that it really matters down to very tiny details. So we'll have them build arcade games. The tiny computer that we were talking about earlier is called a microbit. It has 25 LEDs on it, and you can make it play a game of rock, paper, scissors. You can make it show your names. We sometimes use it as name tags. So that we get to code all of our gaming attributes like that. So we have different things that we do.
That's very
awesome.
cool. So that really breaks down into the coding world. Clint, you were talking about the management world, like business management from an IT perspective. Can you go a little bit more in depth on that side? And I think this is part of your certification program. Was that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's, of course, it's one thing to be able to set up an IT service as part of an existing company, or even a new company. Like if a company wants to be a software developer and develop software for clients. So this certification is one that helps to organize how that should happen.
Okay.
So from the creation of the ideas, to the physical development of those, to the launching of them, to the testing of errors and things like that, and going back and making changes, making updates. So it's that kind of a thing, and it's basically, how do you build this machine and how do you run this machine to effectively and timely create projects for clients that help to make them successful.
Yeah. And I guess all that ties in with like an IT professional wanted to implement software. They didn't need to code it. But they need the information and understanding of that software in order to be able to implement an existing software, third-party application into some particular, like a CPA's office as an example, or something of that nature, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that certainly makes more sense. How about so go back to when IToLogy has its first inception into our marketplace all the way to today. Talk to us a little bit about the impact that you guys have been able to really see. How many people have come through your program, or just any type of statistics there?
Sure. Well, yeah, we've been blessed to be able to make an impact primarily across the state, because South Carolina is our mission. Though we do have some people from out of state that we've been able to impact, but it's with kids, it's been tens of thousands that have gone through our programs. And so those range. Some we have field trips, we have workshops, Saturday workshops, things like that, to where they have come to us, have come to our facility. Oftentimes we will do field trips to the schools and travel all around to take our programs to them. Sometimes we do them in libraries. So it's been a kind of a variety. We also have done events, big events, not just for kids, but also college fairs, those types of things, and even career kind of workshops. We have hosted about every 2 years something we call the Summit on IT, which is a statewide, basically it's an event to where we talk about the state of the IT workforce within South Carolina. And so through all of these things, we've impacted students, parents, educators, professionals,
Families, businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a secondary, right? Yeah, that's awesome. You're listening to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike, and we have Clint and Dakota with IT-oLogy here with us today, and we're talking all about technology. It's a really, really good conversation because your business and your whole livelihood depends on technology throughout the day, all day long, almost. So it's kind of crazy that how much technology just runs our world, runs our everyday, day to day, and we don't even know it sometimes because we take advantage of it and take it for granted so much. Talk to us a little bit about when we go and talking about the programs, and I believe Mike actually might have mentioned this a little bit earlier about the programs like a tech in a box scenario.
Yeah, what is Tech in the Box?
Yeah, so Tech in a Box just started this year in the COVID era. Like Clint said, we were in person for a lot of our programs. Our field trips were in person. Our camps, students came to us on location. So we really had to brainstorm a way that we wouldn't lose contact with our students during this time. So we developed Tech in a Box, and that's where we send all of the supplies that you'll need either for a day camp or a week-long camp. We mail those to you, and then the students get to interact with us virtually through a platform like Google Classroom or Zoom. So you'll still get that one-on-one teacher experience, but you actually get all the supplies in your own home. So it's really great because in the past, we had like a classroom set of robots, for example, but now we get to mail those to the kids and they get to keep them and use them in the future. And so we also have pre-recorded sessions where they'll kind of like YouTube. You mentioned kids are so excited about YouTube. So we decided to capitalize on the YouTube factor and make our own tutorial videos. So they'll walk through that with us on YouTube or in a live session. And we also have different ways to get parents involved so that parents can start learning the code and they can also be the teacher at home with their students. So it's really great. We've had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what you're telling me is you're using technology to teach technology.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. And I know that we've seen with ourselves and with many of our clients and just other associates in the business world, how people have adapted and are embracing things like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever to connect virtually with those that they normally would sit across the table from. And those who haven't adapted and haven't used technology in that way have really struggled. They've struggled to continue to keep connection with folks and their clients.
Absolutely.
And and we're as a human race, we're designed to do life together, right? To be with people. We're tribe people, not loners, not meant to be isolated. So, although it doesn't replace face to face, it does certainly supplement it, and it's better.
Helps.
It's much better than without it.
Right.
I think without some of this technology, many of us would be talking to Wilson, like Tom Hanks did in that movie years ago that he made. So
Wilson was very agreeable, though.
He was.
I mean, you know what I mean? Every time he would complain, Wilson would agree.
Yeah.
He was
The
very
best
agreeable.
friend.
Yeah, the best friend.
Hey, so on your website, I read some stats that were pretty amazing. I think it said 100,000 maybe plus students, 10,000 plus educators. I mean, it's incredible. The one that really stood out to me is how y'all have moved the needle in percentage of folks who have pursued an IT-related occupation as it relates to national, I'm gonna call it national standards or the national averages. And I think the stat I read, if I'm correct, was 24% versus the national average of 11%. That's significant. So So congratulations on having that, helping move the needle in that way and helping make that impact. How did y'all do that? Like what happened?
I love that. What happened?
What happened?
Well, it's just kind of the consistent offering of programs and communicating those, and we've had the privilege of working with some great organizations, some great partners. Of course, Blue Cross is the one that founded us.
And they employ a lot of, I hate to interrupt you, they employ a ton of people in the IT field, correct?
They do. It's in the thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's with their support, with other organizations' support. We've been fortunate throughout the existence of IToLogy to work with the Department of Education, Department of Commerce. It's been delivering programs and encouraging people to be involved and hopefully inspiring them to see what they can do with their lives by pursuing a career in IT.
Yeah.
I would add just a little bit to that. We've also had the opportunity to have some really great partnerships that if you listen to your partners, they'll really tell you where you need to be in your community. And so we've definitely capitalized on that and taken more of a grassroots approach and making sure we're actually out in the community. Of course, that was pre-COVID, but out in the community doing the work on the very basic level. Because if you listen to your partners and your community, they'll really tell you where you need to be and how you need to forward your work.
Mm-hmm. Other than just the parents and the, I guess, K-12 and other than just consumers, people that want to get a career coming straight to you, I'm assuming you're also targeting people like the Department of Commerce, and you're also targeting these folks as far as getting them to send their folks to you. Is that correct? How about like private businesses, people like that?
Yeah, same thing. So we, it's funny, we're very lean on the normal marketing type of effort, but we do a lot of it, word of mouth, internal, social media, email, those types of communications. But yeah, one of the ways that's been very helpful in talking to these organizations is through that Summit on IT, because here's an event that's workforce related that appeals to professionals, to business owners, to educators, to policymakers, to most folks, and so through that they learn about what we do, and we're able to pull in some to be able to help. So,
do you see existing IT businesses send their folks to you to keep their certifications moving forward and keep their education moving forward? Do you see very much of that?
A little of that. We're
not as much.
And most of what we do has been K-12. So the certification is something we're still building and growing and expanding. But it's interesting. One of the things we started doing a little while back, before pre-COVID, is corporate team development.
Okay.
So it's these team development activities, and there are typically a couple of ways that you can go with those type of activities. One is to fix like broken people or broken teams.
Right.
We don't do that. So the other way is what we do is have fun.
Yeah.
Just come and learn how to program a robot. We battle robots and things like that. So that's something we've had to put on hold for now, but hopefully we'll get back to that.
I think that's very cool.
soon.
That is cool.
It is fun.
We are in a business culture today where team building and team advancement, team communication is at an all-time high. That is the success gauge, right? Is how well your team communicates with each other, and their attitude in which they do it.
Absolutely.
And so that is the gauge of success of organizations today. Because if you see somebody or a team with the opposite characteristics, you won't see those same team players on the team for very long.
No,
right?
No, you won't.
And that's just the way it is. So that's cool, man. Keep advancing that. That sounds exciting. I'd love to, Mike, I'd love for us to participate in something like that.
Yeah, I'll probably kick your butt with the robot.
I'll be a good coach. I'm like GM in that case.
You just want to sign the robot to a contract. So outside of the tech in the box, which sounds awesome, by the way, What else have you, as IToLogy, done to adapt to this COVID environment that we've all been, navigating for the past, 7-8 months?
Yeah. So we have started doing some virtual outreaches and specifically recruiting students that have worked with us in the past to kind of be ambassadors in a virtual way. So having them host their own programs where the student then becomes the expert, because kids love to learn from other kids. Most kids don't like adults sitting there telling you what to do, and you kind of become that Charlie Brown teacher. So we've learned that if you have the students and you kind of do a teach the teacher model, so we'll teach them what to do, how to run their workshop, and then let them go at it. And then we're there, of course, for support. We're there in the chat box on Zoom if they want to ask us questions, to be kind of that expert in the background, but really letting the students take over that virtual workshop for us and teach other kids in their own communities.
That's awesome. So what age range is that? Is that also elementary, or is that more middle high school?
That's more middle high school. Right now, we're focused on the 9th through 12th grade, and with girls in that specific area. That's our target area right now with that.
So you also do Tech in the Box in that for that age group, or is it different?
Mm-hmm. We do Tech in the Box for 3rd grade through 12th. We haven't developed one for K through 2nd yet, just because sitting, when you're 5 in front of this Zoom for a couple of hours is difficult.
Yes.
But we're definitely working on that and seeing how we can do that in the future.
Yeah, and they're all being conditioned to do that today.
Absolutely.
And so again, I've got 3, and so they're in school a couple days a week right now, in person, and then a couple of days via remote learning, which is usually pre-recorded, I believe, and then on Fridays I think they have a Zoom call. And so they're definitely being conditioned to learn how to communicate with people who aren't necessarily sitting in the room with them,
Right.
which is powerful.
It is.
You're listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Today we have Clint and Dakota with IT-oLogy, and we're just really talking about the IT industry here in South Carolina. And I'm sure that you guys have reached many people outside of the state of South Carolina, because you probably have taught people, you probably have helped them get educated, and they have gone and impacted other areas. So we really appreciate you guys joining us. When we're talking about like the Tech in a Box, and we're talking about the folks, the age ranges in which you guys are really focused on, and we also talked a little bit about some professionals, the adults that come to you guys. You're saying primarily the adults are wanting to either advance a career or move into that career. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Is it probably more into the career than it is advance the career? What are you guys seeing when it comes to the adults?
I would say so. Yeah, because you have a lot of people who are maybe not satisfied with their current career path. Okay. And they look around and see everything's moving toward technology. So what do they need to do basically to pivot, to change careers, and to get involved with that? So yeah, I would say we're seeing a little bit more of that versus the advancing their current career.
I could easily see that. So many folks get into a career and they think they know what they want to do when they grow up. And then they get into it and they realize that this isn't what I thought it would be. But now they've got student loan debt, and maybe they've bought a house, and maybe they started a family, and now they've got these, income demands. And so finding a career path that they could find passion for, that's advancing every single day, really every single moment, right? That also has the potential to pay extremely well. I could see where that would be a very attractive field for many people.
Yeah, very appealing.
And especially when it has so many different avenues that you can pursue. Talk about some of those different avenues. I mean, we talked a little bit about software development, robotics, cybersecurity, kind of the break fix IT. What else are you seeing a spinoff from these in this field?
So yeah, a few. And those are some of the most popular that we've talked about. In addition, you have, of course, web design, web development. You have business analysis, have all these types of things, data. So big data is huge. There's so much data, we often don't know what to do with it or aren't processing it correctly. So you've got people who are making quite large salaries helping companies to do just that. So I think those are really the the core, and you have, of course, you have IT support. You've got kind of entry level type careers all the way up through chief information officer, chief technology officer, those types of senior level positions. But we love it. One of the reasons is because there's so much of a variety as far as the person, as far as their talents and what they love. I mean, you can have a great career in IT sitting in front of a laptop all day, in your basement if you want. Or if you're more of a creative type, you can do graphic design, you can do video, you can do all these other elements. So there's such a wide range, and IT has something for most everyone. And that's one great aspect of it.
I see a lot of like AI, there's a lot of conversation that in the business world about artificial intelligence and how there's algorithms are established to help understand and process data and pull in all these different data sources and really machine learn, right? And so I think we've only scratched the surface on where that will head. In many ways it's exciting, in some ways it's a little intimidating and scary. What could be done with it? Of course, everything that could be used for positive things can obviously be used in reverse, and we need to be prepared to do it in the positive ways and address those negative consequences that some will venture us into. But
for sure, yeah, I am not nearly as afraid of robots coming to life.
Right.
I don't think that will happen,
Matt,
ever.
Ease your worries.
Yeah.
But robots basically do what they're programmed to do. So as long as you've got good people programming these robots,
that's right.
Yeah.
then you're good. But yeah, robotics, artificial intelligence, drones, all these types of things are very exciting, and we're just at the beginning.
Yeah, we're seeing it impact every field, from farming to delivery, obviously to communication, medicine. I mean, it's talk about medicine and how you've seen some technology used to really make our lives a little better.
I think a big one there is, of course, telemedicine, telehealth. So you don't have to go to the hospital or to your doctor to get treated, to get evaluated. And so that is definitely a big area that's we're just seeing the beginnings of. And of course, technology is used to provide testing, whether it's for COVID or any other types of disease or problem. Technology is right there to help patients and doctors. So.
One thing that's interesting, what you said, Clint, is that, and what I picked up from it is someone may have a desire, maybe they want to be in the medical profession, and maybe they think they're going to go to medical school, or they're going to go become a nurse or an advanced nurse or some other person, professional in the medical field. But then they determine, hey, maybe I can't stand the sight of blood, but they still can be involved in that industry and in many industries without being the front line. They can be behind the scenes and be the heroes and wear their cape behind the scenes, helping advance medicine in this case, to impact many people and perhaps touch more patients' lives than they ever would being on the front line.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, and what's great about that is that they can do it not only within their community, but they can do that all over the world through technology, through telemedicine. It's fantastic.
So Dakota, a little while ago, you were talking about that you primarily work with K through 12. We didn't ask you guys, what are your roles in relation to K through 12? What exactly is your role?
Yeah. So I'm the K-12 STEAM instructor. So science, technology, engineering, arts, math, the buzzword that you hear all over education.
Okay, yeah.
So I work alongside, her name's Roshana Jenkins, and we're the two educators. And she does a lot of the upper level students, so 9th through 12th grade. And I'll do some of the younger students. And then we have Christy McLean. She's our director of programs programs, and she loves working with like pre-K through second grade. So we each kind of have our own grade levels that we love to work with, and we'll have our expertise in the certain programs just depending on the grades that we're working with.
Okay, so you're hands-on in the actual teaching of this product.
Yes.
this
So
service, yeah.
education is my background, and I kind of fell into the technology world with IT-oLogy, and have learned a lot through this program, through this company.
Fantastic.
Have you interfaced with Van Robotics at all? Is that?
So we've heard a lot about them. I know they have the robot Abby. We see it at a lot of, we're at mutual conferences and things like that. So I know they're doing great things in a lot of our school districts around the state. So definitely heard a lot about them. And I saw they were on y'all's podcast a couple weeks
they
ago.
sure were.
So
They have a great product.
Go watch that show. It's very educational.
Yeah,
it was very enlightening
we will.
to us as well. It was awesome. In fact, she even brought Abby here for the second part of the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so it was really cool.
Yeah, they seem to be doing really cool things.
Yeah, that was really neat. Clint, how about you? What's your role there?
Yeah, so I handle marketing and some business relationship management. So I basically do stuff to support what Dakota does.
Yeah,
so she does the hard work. She's
You bring
on the
them
front
in,
lines.
and Dakota actually teaches them, right?
I try. But yeah, and so we've got a very small team. So I work with our president, Tammy Mainwaring, and Shelby Villeneuve, who is part of the marketing team, an event team. So yeah, we kind of have half of us working on the back end, kind of keeping the show going, and then we have 3 experts delivering the programs, creating the programs, and it's a neat team.
So if someone wanted to contact you guys, what would be the best way of going about doing that?
Best way is to go to IT-oLogy.org.
Okay. IT-ology.org.
Yes.
And they fill out a form there. They call. I mean, what's the normal process?
Yeah, so they can go there. They can look to see what we have going on, and they can complete a form. We do have our phone number there. We, like many, are all working virtually. So probably the best way is to fill out a form. We've got a form pretty much on every page of the website.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And you can be engaged with social media as well, right?
Absolutely.
What's your social media?
Ooh, I don't have the names.
IT-oLogy on Facebook.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Facebook.
And they can look both of you
I
up
know
on
you're
LinkedIn.
normally on
Yes,
LinkedIn,
both on
right?
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So we're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you guys joining us today on the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. It's been a great discussion in reference to IT-oLogy, having Clint Hankinson and Dakota Deluca. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. That was a good first stab at that.
You did
We
great.
really appreciate you guys joining us today on the Brainstorm. Any advice you'd like to share with our audience before we let you go?
Oh, advice. I would just say,
I'm just throwing you a curveball here.
yeah, absolutely. I would, before we came in here, Clint and I were talking about making the best of every opportunity. So I think that would be my advice right now in the current state that we're in, is just to try to find, something that brings you joy and seek it, and just continue going after that.
That's awesome.
I love that. That's awesome.
Which is fantastic advice. Yeah. One of the things that I've learned just through this, but also through my career, is that you can make almost anything happen that you want. If you want it badly enough, there are very few things that can ever stop you. So that would be my advice, is to find what you love. And if it takes a while to figure that out, that's okay. I'm kind of still working on it. But yeah, find what you love and go after it, and you can get it done.
That's awesome. Sounds like you believe that you set your own limits. And
Absolutely.
have that growth mindset,
Yeah.
not that fixed one.
Well, Clint, Dakota, thank you guys very much for joining us on the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. We look forward to seeing more of our viewers and hearing more from our listeners from our podcast. You can go to thebrainstormradio.com, check out our YouTube page, subscribe to our podcast, or catch us live on the radio or even on social media. On behalf of my business partner here, Michael White, thanks for joining us today on the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike.
Thanks.